Hello everyone, welcome to the Round 2 Roundup live stream. As always, first thing I do nowadays is check that my audio is connected, so please let me know if you guys can hear me just okay. What a week! Round 2, thank God that is over. What an absolute nightmare of a week. Post your scores, post your questions, most importantly, post your rage trades. Coming into round 3, it is the big trade week before initial price changes, so we're going to see some big trades happening this week. I can't imagine no one not boosting given the round 2 that we've had. You're going to want to bin a lot of players in your squad. In terms of par scores, I know that's a very popular question as well with these streams. So I took an average of the Podmasters League, which is obviously a league full of the podcasters. So quite a few good experienced players. Average in that league was 960. There's a second Podmasters League as well, which had an average of 965. So to me, I'd consider 950 about par. If you scored a little bit low, to be honest, it's not a bad week to have a bad week, right? Everyone did generally across the board quite poorly. So I don't think you're going to lose out too much if you had a poor week this week. Anything over 1,000, I think, is pretty good. So I'm happy with what I did this week. I got 1,004. Thank you, Dave Fafita, for your offload and your forced dropout in the last kind of 20 seconds of the game. Got me all the way up to 1,000. Thank you very much, you king. So I'm seeing a lot of questions in chat. Chat is really fun to listen to read at the moment. Tool Pro says, went close to deleting the app this weekend. I'm sure a lot of people would. If you're a Drinkwater owner, if you're a Ponga owner, Jackson Ford, there was just a lot of unfortunate events that happened with some of the more popular picks this week. So yeah, it sucks if you owned any of those guys. Tanner Boyd as well, someone we'll speak about as well, just didn't really cut. He had a bit of a nightmare game as well. Couldn't find touch a couple of times. Penalties from drop kicks as well. Clone Commander says he scored 10.19, which is a very good score this week. Stuart 885, 991 from Jesus Jerry. You've put a poop emoji next to 991, but if I'm being honest, I think that's okay. I think 991 is fine. Finn says, didn't watch the Roosters game, but what is going on with Brandon Smith? Yeah, we'll definitely talk a lot about Brandon Smith, but look, he's probably going to be sold for me this week. So he picked up a rib injury. Apparently picked something up similar last week as well. Rib injuries just are not good for SuperCoach performances, especially in the forwards. That's something that NRL Physio always talks about, is that player performance is typically reduced with rib injuries because they're quite painful and hard to manage. Very good chance we sell, not Tanner Boyd, maybe Tanner Boyd as well. Brandon Smith, I think, will be a very popular sale this week. So definitely, I think during the week, we'll talk about hooker replacements. I think he is going to be one of the most sold players, if not the most sold, if I'm guessing. A few questions about Cleary as well. But before we get into that, I'll just quickly say hello to everyone in the chat who's here with me tonight. We've got Stuart, Finn, Ian, as always, Mark, John T, Harry, Connor, Moz, as always, Jerry, Clone Commander, Nate, Alaric, Heatwave, Nathan, Paycheck, great username, 404 error page. I really, really rate that. Davey K, Jackie Legs, a few usuals in here. But thanks everyone for joining on this Sunday evening as we dissect what was a pretty painful round 2, wasn't it? So, yeah, I think probably the way that I'll think about this is that we don't necessarily need to go game by game. I think we'll just kind of pluck out questions from the chat and just kind of, run with that. I'm seeing Harvey saying, Cleary's possibly a sell. Good chance I also, not a good chance, but there is a chance I do sell Nathan Cleary this week too. Obviously, Panthers having the bye this week. So, if you've got underperforming picks from their teams, you may look to sell. So quickly, just looking at the Panthers game. So Brian To'o, who I own, I'm happy enough that he was able to score a try. Kind of fit in with, when he gets a line break try, that kind of, it kind of just gets him up to that 70-point mark. I'm glad outside of Glue Hands Crichton, he was able to score a try and get 67. Luke Garner definitely performed well. I think unfortunately, I'm sorry because I did say Garner was probably someone I'd be happy to sell this week. He was one of the better performing mid-range second row forwards this week. Unfortunately, if you saw Garner this week, he came out with a pretty decent performance, played good minutes, and just, was on 40 something at halftime. Very close to scoring a try as well. So that 60 could be a lot higher than what he actually got. So still maybe someone you look to move on if you have, given that they've got the bye this week, but I think that performance was encouraging. So if you are a Garner owner, look, he played 66 minutes, so it's up from the 50. So maybe if that builds up to about 70, 75, he might be someone that you continue to hold. Taruva, I think, is not really going to be sold. I think we've probably all got bigger issues than I think in our team at this stage. But yeah, Cleary is a big talking point as well, right? 40 points, not great. That's two pretty poor games. He's going to have one of the highest break-evens coming into a bye this week. A lot of people, I think, are going to sell Cleary. You can go to someone like Jerome Hughes, who did very well this week with 91 from memory. I can also see very popular if you don't own someone like Harry Grant and you've got that ability to use Tanner Boyd as a way to flip. Cleary to Grant sounds like a very straightforward move for people this week, with the idea that Cleary drops in price and maybe you get him back in a couple of weeks, but you can lock in someone like Grant who doesn't have a buy until round 9. So something like Cleary to Grant, I don't totally mind. I feel like if your team is kind of relatively well set, you can maybe afford those 1 or 2 trades to take out Cleary, but eventually bring him back, because he will be someone you want to bring back in. But yeah, so Cleary I think will be a hot topic for the week. I can see a lot of people looking to sell him this week, and I'm not against it, to be honest. Just because of kind of early thoughts as well, because I think if you are looking to make big upgrades, I'll show you my team as well in a little bit, and give you some of my initial thoughts. But selling Cleary does unlock a lot of money, and so you can use that to make big upgrades elsewhere in your team, to maybe get in on a gun who might go up in price, or you just want to lock in because you've got 2 weeks of information now. So Cleary could be someone I use to make way in terms of cash point of view. Nathan to Cherry Evans. Yep, Cherry Evans, obviously Manly looking real good. Cleary to Grant to me feels very comfortable, especially when you know that Cleary got the bye this week, and Grant has got a good matchup, I believe. Could be the Tigers from memory. I'll have to double check. A few people. I'm just looking at a few people's scores. Jermaine Hopgood. Yeah, any Jermaine Hopgood captains out there, you were the real winners, I think, for this week. 124 points. Hop God. What an absolute god. I came up with a little sonnet summary poem, but I haven't actually written everything down. But it went kind of along the lines of Jermaine Hop God, captainers, forget about your pod. VC or captaincy is going to be an easy decision in round 3. Something like that. It was along those lines. But yeah, Hopgood is going to be a serious consideration for a VC. I think they play Thursday this week, so I mean, the guy's an absolute weapon. Hopgod, the new Papali'i at the Eels, viable captain every week for sure. Look, I think we'll have to see round 4. I would like to see what happens to his minutes when Madison comes back, because I do think Madison will continue to play that middle role, not on the edge. So maybe that has an impact on his minutes. But look, if he still gets the minutes that he's playing, like, he could be like an 80 average guy for the rest of the season. Like, he could just be that good, because we've already seen he's got that work rate, but he's got that attacking upside as well. You know, he loves to offload. So those abilities to get the, poke his nose through, offload for a kind of line break assist, try assist, he showed that he can do that this week. What did he play? He played 71 minutes. So, even with Madison coming back, I don't expect that to drop too much. It might drop to 65. So yes, he could be someone who just pumps out 70 plus a week with ease. So it could be just become a very, very safe captain option, or VC as well. Toby says, check Cleary scores in his 3rd and 4th game last year. This is something that Cleary did last year. Toby, you are correct. I believe he went 150 in round 3 against the Broncos. Then he went like 108 or something in round 4. I can't remember who he played in round 4. But yes, obviously, initial reaction is, yeah, you can sell Cleary. It feels easier this week because, he's got to buy, but we all know the capability of him. And Panthers did look better, put it that way. It was 151 and 158 in round 3, round 4. So yeah, just keep that in mind, with an 88 in round 6 as well. So there is obviously some risk in selling Cleary, but if he's because for me, for example, I was coming into this week thinking Toto could potentially be a sell for me. Still might be the case. We'll talk about Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow. He had another really good week. Dolphins again coming away with another win. The base stats for Hammer are up and up. Really unexpected. We haven't really seen that from him in the past. So if that's going to be the new norm for Hammer, at his price tag, he would make some money. So, Toto down to him was someone I was thinking about. Could still be something that I do. But Toto, coming in with a 67 this week was obviously very well. But maybe Cleary is a sell instead for money. Not sure. Okay, so yeah, in terms of the Panthers, I think we'll talk a lot more about Cleary. Sonny Luke as well. Not very encouraging in that he played pretty decent minutes this week, but only pumped out 29. Still think the attack is looking a little bit clunky for Penrith. He was a lot of times scooting out a dummy half, but there was just no kind of players around him to support him. So I think he would kind of, maybe when everything clicks and he makes those scooting dummy half runs, better chance of getting those maybe line break assists and things like that when he's got players pushing up around him. We weren't really seeing that though, because he played 45 minutes. So, 29 points in 45 minutes is okay, but I think with the emergence of a few other good hooker performances this week with Wade Egan, Reed Miney had a good week. Maybe my immediate thought was cheese down to Sonny Luke to make my money, but Sonny Luke has the bye this week, so he doesn't even have to be bought this week. He won't change the price until next week. Another thing with Brandon Smith is that it'd be good to see what with TLT, because if he's not named in the Roosters team, you don't have to sell him straight away. If you don't know who yet in hooker position you want to go for, maybe there's an argument that you just wait that week and then you go down to Sonny Luke in round 4. But I know a lot of people will be very keen, I think, on Wade Egan. Toolpro says Brandon Smith trade options. Yeah, that's going to be a big talking point this week. But, initial thoughts, something like Wade Egan's looked really good for the Warriors. A couple of attacking stats in both games have inflated his score, but he's a relatively cheap price from memory. So he scored 88 this week, and he is 498k. He scored 99 the week before, so he is probably going to have a very, very low break even coming into this week. Warriors draw is not great, but he is a hooker, so what I'll be interested in doing is just looking into his base stats, both so far the first 2 games, but also just historically as well. So he's an option. Reed Miney could be an option as well. Bulldogs obviously looked very, very good against the Melbourne Storm. There are a couple of options. I think maybe Sonny Luke, if you just know you eventually want to get someone like Sonny Luke. Or obviously Harry Grant is probably the one that, if you don't own Harry Grant, he'd be the one who I very much would be trying to get to, I think, as well. So those are probably a few options, I think, in the hooker position. So yeah, Reed Miney, Wade Egan kind of sprang to mind. Maybe Sonny Luke as a bit of a cheapie, or maybe just go straight to Grant if you do need to go for a gun. Because Reed Miney looked really good as well. He has looked good actually the past 2 weeks. Even when the Bulldogs weren't very good in round 1, he was one of the few players who did look quite good for them. Holt Ponga from Nini. I mean, let's wait and see what the kind of NRL physio's take is on the concussion, but I think he said that's his 4th concussion now in 10 months. A real big risk, obviously, with him, in that he might not come back for a while. It could be a few weeks. And if he's in your 5'8" spot, it's a pretty prime position. To me, early thought is probably he's a sell. Again, I feel a bit bad because in the preview streams from earlier this week, I said people who are having Munster, if you're looking to replace Munster, I was saying if you can get over the risk with Ponga injury-wise, he'd be my number 1 choice. I hope people had concerns about the risk and went for my number 2 option, which was Ezra Mam, because he killed it. He got like 80 something points and he's looked really good actually. So yeah, someone like Ezra Mam as a 5'8" pod could be an option. But yeah, Ponga probably for me is going to be a sell. If you got him at fullback, seeing a few people in the chat mentioning Reece Walsh. Is Reece Walsh a buy? Now, I do like that as a potential pod option. I'm not sure how much of a pod he'll be though, to be honest, because like first game for the Broncos, he looked amazing. He looked really, really good. They've got a really good draw too. So if you look at their draw coming up after this week, so the first 2 weeks for the Broncos were kind of tough on paper. They've won both games though, Panthers and Cowboys. I think coming up for the next week, their draw becomes really good. My thing is a little bit slow in loading. Let's have okay. Before I show you just a blank screen, I'll go to my little handy draw planner instead. Let me do that. How do I do this? Where's my Google Sheets? Google Sheets. Yeah, you guys can see all my Google Sheets. Personal team planner. Draw. Okay, here we go. Bulldogs, not Broncos. So they've got Dragons at home, Dolphins away, West Tigers at home, Raiders at home, Titans away. It's a pretty good next 5 games. So yeah, Reece Walsh definitely could be an option, I think, moving forward. And if you've got Ponga around that same price point, seeing a few people say Teddy to Reece Walsh, that to me feels a bit reactionary. Like, I think Teddy captainers were probably the most unlucky this week in terms of captain picks. He got 55, but in all honesty, Teddy could have easily gotten like 100 plus. Suoli'i bombed a try for him. Teddy dropped a ball that Walker could have laid in a platter for him. So, on a different day, Teddy's walking away with 2 extra tries, extra 34 points, and he's looking at a score closer to 90. And all of a sudden, I think people aren't talking about selling Tedesco. So I wouldn't read too much into that score from Teddy. I think he looked really involved, supporting the play a lot. Again, Roosters are a little bit clunky still, not perfect. round 3 is tough against the Rabbitohs, but it doesn't feel like a straight sell for me. I think you could maybe move to Walsh in round 4. I know Teddy's draw is not very good. If I go back to my little draw planner here, Roosters do go into a tough run now with Rabbitohs at home, a bye, then it's Parramatta, Melbourne Sharks, then it's the Dragons and the Warriors. So it is tough. I am thinking back to last year though, when I know a lot of people, myself included, we actually all sold Tedesco because he had a couple of lower games, and I think we all went to like Blake Taff, I remember was the play, and I think a lot of us were looking at the draw being tough. But like I'm looking at some of his scores from last season during that little period just before State of Origin. Against Cowboys, he scored 88. Against the, granted, the Dragons, 76. Bulldogs, 94. Yeah, Bulldogs probably weren't as good. Titans, 126. Fair enough, it's Titans. Okay, here we go. But Parramatta, 62. Panthers, 67. Sharks, 144. So he was still kind of getting like mid 60 plus scores, even against those tougher opposition. So I'm kind of thinking, can I still hold him for a week? Like, he just doesn't feel like my biggest issue this week. That's probably the main thing. He just doesn't feel like he's someone I need to trade out this week. So I know Walsh looked really good and had a lot of attacking stats. But Teddy for him, I'm not sure if I'll be doing that. Ponga to him feels very, very straightforward though. Walker owner's lucky. Yeah, look, I'm a Sam Walker owner. I definitely got lucky this week because, that was that. Yeah, the Suoli'i try that he bombed for Tedesco. Sam Walker profited from that. So yeah, I've got a little bit of luck that way, having Sam Walker. But yeah, 92 points, obviously pretty happy about that. Other other Roosters players, I think people might be looking to sell. Egan Butcher is probably one. When you maybe talk about the Storm game, I think, Eli Katoa looked really good. Had a lot of attacking stats. I think he had like 3 line breaks, but looked like he had a good combination with Jerome Hughes. So he's a mid-range 2RF, I think, who's so far performed better than Egan Butcher. And so I think he's probably set to make money. So someone like Katoa, I do like potentially as a replacement for Egan Butcher. Egan Butcher, again, 44, no major attacking stats. That's all kind of just in base stats. A few minor stats in there too. Just hasn't been probably as good as what owners would have hoped for. That, last week was obviously a bit of a pain given he got that sin bin. But yeah, only 44 this week. Feels like, yeah, it's probably someone that you can move on to maybe like I think Katoa for me looked really good, really impressive. And I think he's got 2 decent scores. I think 54 now, and I think it was 90 he got this week. So it definitely would be making some money. Now, Thomas has actually meant something in the chat, which I forgot to chat about with Nathan Cleary. Cleary to Trindle. So this is actually something I did. I was talking with the SC Whisperer about this. If you sell Nathan Cleary to Braden Trindle, because it looks like Nico Hines might not be back until round 5. Trindle's now got like a 76 this week and another decent score the week before. He's like 200 something K, so he'll make a ton of money. He's got a buy in round 6. So like if you went to Trindle in round 3, you'd have round 3, 4. So you'd get 2 price rises out of Trindle. And then maybe in round 5, when Hines is back, Cleary, you'll have 1 game without owning Cleary, but Cleary may have dropped 50, 60K. So you might be able to, it's a couple of trades that you'd be burning to go from Cleary to Trindle back to Cleary if you do want to go back to Cleary, but you might make like 150K out of it. So that's something that I have thought about too. I'll have to kind of wait until lockout, I think, and start playing around with that. But because what I want to do is I just want to kind of see the final break evens of a lot of these players. But yeah, that's something that's worth thinking about as well. From Thomas has mentioned that in the chat. And yeah, Shades of Red saying the same thing. Thoughts on Trindle? Would need Hines out again, of course. Yeah, so sounds like a bit of a week-on-week thing with Hines, but Wacker's Whispers tweeted that he might not be back until round 5. So you could get 2 price rises out of Trindle. The fact that his goal kicking is obviously very useful, and he's looked quite good as well. Steez has said Tanner Boyd to Trindle, surely. Yeah, like that's even a play as well, because Tanner Boyd does have a bye in round 5, and he's got Melbourne and the Cowboys. So 2 tougher matchups coming up. Hasn't really done quite well for the first 2 weeks. So yeah, someone like Tanner Boyd out. Only 25 this week. He did have a bit of a poor performance too, right? Like twice I think he couldn't get to the out of the field for a penalty kick. And yeah, I think he tried to go for a short line dropout that just didn't make the 10 meters, so another penalty conceded. So I think there was a lot of minus stats there for Tanner Boyd this week. Let me see what he got. yeah, -6 missed tackles, and yeah, -2 in penalty and -6 in errors. So not a great game for Tanner Boyd. Decent performance from the Dragons though. Not seeing too many questions about Dragons players, which is fair enough. There's only been one game for them. Murdoch Masilla maybe is a talking point. Only 34 points, playing. I think he played almost the full 80, didn't he? So the PPM was not great. He had a couple of decent moments. Did he get a line break in that 34? I was listening to this on the radio. He did get a line break in that 34. So like 24 points in base. I'm just going to check what his minutes are here as well. So bear with me for a second. But that doesn't give you great confidence in him either. You know, people looking at moving off maybe Pele. He played 72 minutes. 72 minutes for 24 points of base stats from Murdoch Masilla is not great. So probably not someone I'd be jumping on this week. Other probably talking points out of this Titans game, Khan Pereira. Yeah, look, I don't think I'll be selling Khan Pereira. I know 37 points with a try line break is awful. So he's essentially, as Adam B says, the new Jason Saab. So for me, I'm kind of just going to stick with him. He's bottom dollar. There's not really a heap of options, I think, to move to. I feel like there's probably better use of money than, say, trying to upgrade a bottom dollar cheapie to like a mid to a high 200k guy, when Khan Pereira just needs to get a couple of 70 scores and he's going to start making money again. He's probably not going to be a play for the next 3 weeks. So maybe if your centering depth is an issue with buys, maybe you do look to sell. Maybe you do look to sell at that point to try to beef up your center wing depth. But I think if you can kind of cover him with the likes of Warbrick, Alamotti had a good week as well. Maybe then he's okay just to kind of sit on your bench and hopefully just get a couple of good scores eventually and make us some money. A few questions actually about Cameron Murray. Is Cameron Murray a sell? Not for me, no. I think if you've started with Cam Murray, I think the appeal with Cam Murray is that you spent up to get a gun second row forward. Doesn't have a buy until round 13 when he's going to go away instead of Origin duty. So you've got a nice clear runway of games with Murray. I know the performance and scores is not great. I think he scored 40 points. Look, I own him as well. Not ideal, but he's not someone who I just think about it in this week. Like, is he the biggest issue in my team? Probably not. Like, we don't have to trade out all of our guns who are going to lose money. So to me, Murray doesn't feel like a sell, not at all. A few pro, like Tool Pro, says that Hiddy was the one who asked it. Yeah, for me, it's just the fact that like next week he could easily come back and just bounce back with an 80 score. Just wasn't quite his game, I think, this week. Duncan says, I own Walker and Paulo. I'm assuming that's Jackson Paulo. Talk about lucky. Yeah, obviously Jackson Paulo did quite well this week. Danny says, nearly fell off my dinosaur laughing at Cam Murray sell. Yeah, look, I mean, I can see the reason why, but it's one poor week. He had a really good week the week before. I don't think we need to be too reactionary with someone like Cam Murray. I can take a little bit more stock in the sell Cleary argument because he's got the bye this week. And, alternatives are there, and potentially a Trindle, maybe a Jerome Hughes if you liked what he did, and then with a view to go back to Nathan Cleary to kind of make some money. It's much harder with Murray, who's going to play this week. So that's probably it out of the Panthers-Rabbitohs game. I guess out of Isaac Thompson. I mean, I know Isaac Thompson, not great. I didn't play him this week. 24 points. It's tough. I have thought, like, could I do Isaac Thompson to Tabuai Fidow? I know Tabuai Fidow is going to make money, but I still feel like Thompson is playing for a good Rabbitohs team. It was a tough matchup against the Panthers away. He's not expensive, so I'm kind of thinking, could I just keep it? Because I can see myself going Thompson to Hammer, and then Hammer just going to maybe like 35 to 40 point games again. And look, Thompson might do the same as well, but it feels like my initial thought is it feels a little sideways and don't feel like an upgrade in my team. Like Clone Commander says, he scored 2 tries and a line break and scored 70 something points, so it's not great. And that's true. I think the base stats is probably what I was most looking at. So 79 points from Hammer. So if you look at all of his base stats, so 9 tackles and 24 runs. Okay, so he's been updated a little bit. So it's a little bit higher, I think, when the game first concluded. So 24 plus 9 is 33 in base stats, which is fine. It was 37 base the week before, which is definitely well up on what he's done historically. So 33 points in base, so maybe if that's his new norm, 35 points a game might be his floor, which is fine. But at his price tag, he won't make a lot of money. He needs to be getting more consistently, I guess, these 60, 70 scores. It's kind of hard to read as well with Tabuai Fido because, yes, the first 2 weeks have been good, but week 1, first game for the Dolphins in the NRL, massively up for the game, and round 2, their first home game. So I kind of feel like the first 2 weeks have been like real big, big performances from the Dolphins. Just have to wonder, like, is that something that's going to be sustainable? They've got the Knights away next Friday, so it's not like it's a bad matchup coming up. So, yeah, maybe he's someone that you can go for, but I'm still not like, yes, I need to go for him. So, one I need to ponder. Thompson could very easily be dropped. He was shocking. Look, if Thompson gets dropped, then that will probably make up my mind. Yeah. Anyway, let's see. And yeah, as Adam says, Fido looks more involved, unlike lazy Thompson looks bad. Yeah, so Fido does look a little bit more involved, and that could be the element of Wayne Bennett or something like that, right? Val Holmes a sell from Tour Pro. Not necessarily. I mean, now is when the draw kicks in for the Cowboys. If you've got your Cowboys players, this is really what you bought them for, isn't it? So I'm looking at that. You've got, okay, may as well show off some capabilities of the old spready. Draw difficulty sorting. What's going on? So we got from round 3, didn't I? Yeah, you've got from round 3, Cowboys got Warriors, Titans, Bulldogs, Dolphins, Warriors, Newcastle. Like, to me, and he probably will be moving to fullback, right? So more base stats probably for Val. More likely to be involved in the attacking plays. Goal kicking still, like, nah, to me doesn't feel like a sell. I know this week wasn't great, but again, think about it. Like, I can't remember Val Holmes doing too much this week, and he got 47 points. Like, in a week where Val doesn't do much, but the goal kicking really helps. Like, no attack stats there, right? Like, it's runs, a couple of tackle breaks, tackled and goal kicks, and he gets close to 50. So like 50 is his floor with no major attacking stats. 1 try, and we're looking at try with a line break, and you're adding 30 to that. You're looking at close to 80, and he's basically holding his value. So no, for me, I don't think Val is going to be a sell. Even if he doesn't play fullback, he's fine at center wing still. A few questions about Lockie Miller. Yeah, so Lockie Miller had another pretty good game in terms of just work rate. I think he scored about 50 in base again. Adam Dewey captain. I had to see it again, unfortunately. My boy couldn't quite get me the 150 that I was hoping for, but that's okay. But yeah, Miller, he only got a try contribution. Maybe an argument that he gets the LBA try assist that Rick Pacey is suggesting. I feel like he won't get it because I think the game has been paying more recently centers getting those try assists for those type of plays. So yeah, I'm not sure if Miller's going to get that added on, unfortunately. But again, 53 points in a game where, like lots of tackle breaks, lots of runs, got a line break in there too. So pretty good game, I guess, for him. Just needs those big attacking stats. Can we talk about Stefano as well very briefly? I know that call was an absolute dud from an NRL point of view. Like, the precedent has been set for that to be a double movement for ages. But when they said that, oh yeah, his upper torso's in there, so he carries it forward, so it's a try, I was like, I don't agree with it, but I will absolutely take it. Thank you, Stefano, for your try. I needed every point this week. To answer Heatwave's question, I captained Dewey, as you can see on the screen. So not ideal, but yeah. At least this week, the spread in points between captains wasn't too big. Like Teddy 55, Cleary 40, Dewey 43. Grant was probably one of the better options with 76. And who else was there? Oh yeah, Hopgod, of course, 124 points. Juangi Suarez Moreno says Drinkwater for Walsh. Yeah, I mean, look, Drinkwater's going to be out for probably the next 3 weeks, maybe 4, given his suspension. So yeah, I don't mind a play on Walsh because all the other fullback. I mean, assuming you've already got one of like Latrell or Turbo, then I'd probably say get one of them two first. If you've already got one of them, then I think it's fine going with Walsh because that draw is really good. I mean, what did Latrell score this week? 62, not doing much. Bloody Latrell. But yeah, no. So I think if you're a Drinkwater owner, going down to Walsh frees up a lot of money for upgrades elsewhere in your team. So I don't mind that move. The Broncos do have a very good draw too. Is Burton a sell? All right, let's talk quick. I haven't spoken about the Storm Bulldogs game to this point yet. So obviously a really, really good performance from the Bulldogs. Not so much for the Storm. I mean, yeah, only 29 points from Burton. Not great. I think he was one of those players last week who I said, if you didn't have Dewey, I'd go for Dewey this week. Obviously, that only paid off by like 14 points, so it wasn't a big deal. But I do think that I would rather have Dewey moving forward. So for me, Burton, if we have a look at the draw for the Bulldogs. So from round 3, we've got Tigers this week, then the Warriors, Cowboys, Rabbitohs, Parramatta, Sharks, then Dragons, Raiders. Okay, we're starting to go quite long term here. It's a tough call this week. Now they've got the West Tigers at home, and you saw the Bulldogs put on a lot of points. So it's a tough one. Last week felt like a much easier sell heading into a Melbourne game. So he very easily could do big this week. Yeah, I think Adam makes a good point. Like, he'll get better, but when is the question? And like, I'm looking at the Tigers, like it's Bulldogs. Well, they're versing each other this week as well. Like, I think that Tigers game is good. Warriors away doesn't feel as easy. You know, Warriors I think were quite good against the Roosters as well. A bit unlucky to not get the win there. So Warriors away probably isn't easy. Then it's Cowboys, Rabbitohs, Para, Sharks. Like, the draw isn't fantastic for the Bulldogs. So I think I'd still be okay selling. Obviously, it's a bit of a risk this particular week. But yeah, I think could be someone that you maybe could look to move on to, as long as you identify the right kind of option, I think, at 5'8", because the 5'8" spot is a little bit tough. But if you don't have Dewey, I think we saw today, even, you know, Dewey on a bad day, Dewey was okay. Could have maybe questionably got a try assist, but they've given it a try contribution. Even in a slightly quiet game, which, to be fair, that night's Tigers game was a bit rubbish, he still come away with 43 points. So I think his floor is just higher than Burton, and probably has a better ceiling too. Heatwave says, I'm thinking of taking Walsh over Turbo for Ponga, not gonna lie. Nah, for me, if you don't have Turbo, I would go Turbo over Walsh. I think coming back now off the bye, the draw is not great for Manly, I'll admit that. Like, you look at it there, Parramatta, Rabbitohs, Newcastle, it's not screaming huge points, but Manly have looked really good, both in the week 2 of trials, but also round 1. Coming off a bye, freshen up again, ready to crack into it. For me, Turbo would be 100% a priority, I think, over Walsh if you don't own him. Because I think Manly looked real good, and Turbo's just an out-and-out gun. He scored 97 points the week before, seemingly not doing a lot. So, for me, it's Turbo. Like, Turbo's 97 felt effortless. Walsh did really good, but he did a lot to get to his 105. So, yeah, for me, Turbo, I think, out of those two. Is Karaz worth a shout for his cheeky pod? 51 last week. Karaz will be a big talking point, I think, coming into this week. I'm actually kind of filthy at myself. So when I was putting together the center wing video back in the preseason, Karaz's name was actually there. Not in my final list in the videos, but he was someone, as I was scrolling through the app, I was like, oh, should I spend a few minutes talking about Karaz as well? But I thought, he's solo owned. He was good cheapy last year. I'll leave it. I'm kind of annoyed that I did that, because I think I forgot his good work rate from last year. And the first 2 weeks of the season, he's been an absolute beast. So he scored 145 this week. If you take a look at his non-attacking stats, so 8 points in tackles. I'm not even going to include offloads and tackle breaks for now. 8 points in tackles, 26 points plus 11 in runs. So 37 plus, 8? So that's 45 points in pure base from a winger is ridiculous. That's better than Brian To'o, basically. Add in your tackle breaks, your offloads. So 16 plus 24 is another 40. We're talking 85 points in base and power, which is ridiculous. 85 points in base power. Then obviously you add the line break assist, the 2 line breaks, and the 2 tries, and we're looking at a monster score. So we saw that the draw wasn't great for Karaz, but he's got that work rate, right? Even on a bad day, he could get you 40 to 45. He's not necessarily cheap, 567k. So I'm just curious as to, like, let's say one thing I could think about doing this week, maybe just as an early shout. Smith, if I wanted to go down to a cheapie, maybe down to Sonny Luke, frees up like 200k. Isaac Thompson up to Karaz. Could be something that I do. That could be something, if I really want Karaz, that could be a way I do it. Maybe a Cleary downgrade. So I think if you're upgrading one of your, like if you've gone with a real cheap center wing setup and you want to get to like a mid-range center wing, Karaz I think could be a great shout, because even last week, I think he scored like, what did he score last week? He scored 51 last week, and I'm pretty sure he didn't get any attacking stats. So like it was purely just base power as well. And yeah, Jacob Preston. So unfortunately with Preston, I had played Davey Mawali in the first game of the round. If I hadn't done that, and if I had just left that fourth reserve spot blank, I would have put that reserve on Preston after seeing he was starting, especially starting at lock, because we know that the middles issue with the Bulldogs is rife at the moment, I guess. He played 50 minutes last week, so I thought if he was playing middle this week, he'd probably have a pretty decent work rate. But unfortunately, I had already used up all my reserves, or like I had 2 reserves left, but it was like one was for like Harry Grant, one was for Dave Fafita, so I wasn't taking it off them. So I'm a little bit annoyed that I decided to play Mawali early in the week, because if I hadn't, I definitely would have put that reserve on Preston, seeing him start. And I think he banged out how many minutes? Have a quick look here. 76 minutes. So big minutes from him this week. So almost 80 minutes. Scored the try, obviously. But take out that try, we're still looking at a 53-point score, which is fine for 200k, right? So he's probably someone who I think, if you don't own, probably would be someone that I would look to go to as a cheapie. Should make a lot of money. Yeah, Adam says that the second 40 minutes he went very low. But looking at that, 53 points without that try is fine. For 200k especially, like he'll make some money. Let's see. Is Dylan Brown a good buy? Oh, Dylan Brown a good buy. I'm sure you all know my love for Dylan Brown. Had a really good week, 100 plus. It hurts a ton for Dill Bags, and I couldn't get his points. But I'm not sure if he's a buy just yet. If you are, the 5'8" spot, if you already have Dewey and you've got like Ponga, and you don't have duels, then maybe you go to Dill Brown early. He will probably lose cash though, although actually 105, and I think he got like 30 the week before. So you're looking at an average of just over 60. So he'll probably go down in price, but maybe not a whole lot in price. He will be someone I'm targeting, I think, from around 6-ish when the draw really does open up. So he's probably not a massive. He doesn't scream like he's a massive buy for me. Like I know he did really well this week. Parramatta overall did look a lot better this week, although the actual game itself was pretty crazy. It was just back and forth, like point scoring. No such thing as defense in that Eels Sharks game. So looking at the Parramatta draw, still tough. Like you got Manly, Penrith, and then the Roosters. Round 6 is when it really opens up though, with Tigers, Bulldogs, Broncos, Knights, and the Titans. And Manly Way doesn't feel like a super easy game either. So he doesn't scream buy to me at this stage. Yeah, that's someone who we haven't spoken about is Garrick. So Matthew says he's doing Stinkwater. Yeah, unfortunately, if you're a Drinkwater owner, you're probably within your rights to call him Stinkwater. Stinkwater to Garrick, 80k, I'm guessing it's Camperera, to Karaz, and Cleary/Ponga to Trindle. Yeah, Garrick could be an awesome shout this week. Not going to change in price this week, but looked, round 1 was fantastic. We know he's an absolute gun for Supercoach too. Is Brian To'o a sell? Doesn't, again, Tour Pro, like he was probably someone coming into this week that I think if he had another kind of 40 point game, I'd probably be moving him on. Now that he's got 67, he kind of will hold his value. Panthers looked a lot better in attack this week as well. I'm kind of just expecting that hopefully that gets better and better over time. And so I'm kind of thinking maybe for me, he might be a hold. I think I can afford to be maybe a little bit more patient with To'o. But yeah, it depends a lot on Crichton inside of him because he's got glue hands. But yeah, for me, he's not a massive. Like I think if he's your guy that you need to sell to make money to do like a Boyd to Grant upgrade. Let's say, for example, something like that, or Cheese to Grant. That's probably a bit more realistic. And if he was a guy that you look to sacrifice down to Karaz or to Tabai Fido maybe, or some kind of cheapy center wing, I'd probably say like it's okay because you're getting someone like Grant. But I think if you can avoid it, I don't think he's an absolute sell. Who else we got from this? I mean, we don't need to talk about Hop God, absolute gun. Bryce Cartwright with another good. Cartwright's someone I'm interested in as well. More of a short-term thing because I think Sean Lane will be back round 5/round 6, where I expect Cartwright is going to come out of the team at that point. But he's had 2 good weeks of good work rate. So, you know, if you're going for maybe a downgrade in your second or forward, maybe Cartwright, but it does feel a little bit more short-term. I think someone earlier in the chat was asking me, am I going to boost this week? Yeah, I'm pretty sure I will be boosting this week. Kind of need to have a think about the team as to where I'd be looking to make the trades. In fact, I may as well just talk about my team for a little bit. We're about 45 minutes in, so let's talk about the team. So for me, Cheese feels a very easy one to sell. Heatwave, I'm not even going to acknowledge that question as ludicrous. You can't even think about selling the man you've mentioned. No way. Not a chance. Heatwave says Katoa got to be buy of the week. Yeah, look, Eli Katoa looked real good. Real good. He's definitely someone I'm interested in if I can... I'll just quickly chat through my team. So, Cheese, probably going to be sold for me. If he doesn't get named this week, he might not get sold. He might just be held for round 4, where then move to, say, Sonny Luke, because round 4 he's got the buy anyway, Brandon Smith. So, I might not do it until round 4. If he gets named, though, then I'll probably sell, because I think he's going to have quite a high break-even, which I don't think he'll meet. And the rib issue, I think, is just going to affect his performance as well from a Supercoach aspect. Stefano will stay. Welch will stay. Front row forward is something I am looking to prioritize this week. I think try to upgrade. I really like the look of Tohu. Banged out 72 again this week. The man is an absolute machine. Watching him as a non-owner, it's just frustrating because he just keeps tackling. He makes 2 tackles, and then in the 4th hit up of the opposing team, he makes another tackle. Like, dude's making 3-4 tackles a set. It's stupid. If you don't own, you're just like, stop it. Just chill, man. You're getting all these points we don't own you. So anyway, Tohu is definitely someone I'm interested in. Obviously, a lot of money would be needed to get to him. So like Pele to Tohu is like 400k difference. So I'd probably need to sell someone like Cleary down to Trindle, maybe down to Hughes. But that 4th front row forward spot is something I'm definitely trying to upgrade. So then that way I'll have a Tohu Welch front row forward pairing with Oichikamanu on the bench. Feels probably a little bit more comfortable than right now. Like, if you think about it, Stefano got 66 points. Take out that dodgy try, 36 points. I'm not sure I can rely on Oichikamanu, I think, as my second front row forward. I don't think I've seen enough to keep running that. So front row forward, I think, will be an area I'll try to bring in someone like Tohu. Because Welch, if you missed it, Nelson Sofa Solomona has got a 6 to 8 week, I think it's an MCL, some kind of leg injury. Can't quite remember, sorry. But it's 6 to 8 weeks. So the middles again for the Storm is even weaker now. So Welch, I think, will just have to take an even greater role. Second row forward, I don't think I'm going to be making too many changes, if I'm being honest. Murray will stay. Fafita, I think, is going to stay. Hop God is obviously staying. Preston, I think, will stay. Niokore looked really good this week. So he was one of the guys who did very well for me. I think he scored 83 this week. He got a try assist, line break assist. But I think I calculated his base stats was about 57. And I think he played about 70... No, he played less than 70 minutes because he actually got HIA that game. So Niakore's work rate was really good. And I think eye test wise, he was really troubling the Roosters. I think when the Warriors were going to his side more, he looked really dangerous. He played 67 minutes and I think he had base of about 55, 57. So I was happy enough with Niakore's performance. So I think for me, he's probably going to stay for now. Dury, I'm okay selling, I think. Not a must sell, but again, I think he scored like 41 this week. He's going to be one of the slow burn cash cows. I think if I can get him up to say like maybe even Tohu, because Tohu is available in second or forward, or probably what I would try to do actually with Dury is get him to Katoa, So I think I really like the look of Katoa as well. Duri to Katoa is a little less than 200k. So that's maybe an area where I'm also thinking about maybe an upgrading. So he's potentially a sell, but not a massive sell, but it'd probably only be for Katoa because I don't think I'll be selling anyone else in my second row forward. Adam Dewey and Isaiah Katoa in the 5'8 spot, that's not changing. Sam Walker's going to stay for this week, I think, as well. Cleary is definitely an option to potentially sell to maybe Trindle, just to create those funds, but it'll be with a view to bring Cleary back. So I just need to have a think about it as well. Is it worth burning 2 trades just to take out Cleary and bring him back in? Something I'm going to be thinking about as well. Teddy and Turbo, I think for me are going to, Turbo for me is going to stay. Teddy, I think will stay for now. I think Taruva, Warbrick, Alamotti, Khan Pereira all going to stay, and Val Holmes. Isaac Thompson and To'o could be sells. Maybe an upgrade to a Karaz, maybe a Tabuai Fido if I want to make a little bit of money as well. So I kind of feel like there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's probably 6 spots in the team. Brandon Smith, Franklin Pele, maybe Dury, maybe Cleary, To'o and Isaac Thompson that I think I might look to make some moves this week. So I kind of just need to have a think about where do I think I can make the biggest upgrade. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about in terms of potential areas to change this week. If I'm being honest and looking at it objectively, front row forward is probably the spot I need to fix up first. So that's probably what I'm going to try to aim to fix up if possible. So yeah, we'll see how we go. But that's kind of what I'm thinking in terms of team changes, I think, for this week. Okay, what are we on? We're about 47 minutes, so we'll go for another 10 or so minutes. We'll just keep answering your questions. I'm having a good time talking about a nightmare of a week. Just thinking, looking at these games, if there's anyone else to chat about. There's a few questions about Ruben Cotter. Yeah, look, if you own Cotter, I think, not much from him. Only got 52 points. I think if you've got Cotter, I think you just kind of stick with him. He's going to be he's going to be a good option, just long-term hold until kind of the State of Origin period, because the Cowboys don't have an early buy for ages. So I think if you've got him in your front row forward, I think you just kind of stick with him. It doesn't feel like someone you need to move on. Wade Egan, yeah, look, I'll probably, let's dig into his numbers a little bit, because I think he will be very popular this week. So looking at his base stats, 42 minus 4, 38, plus 9 in runs, so that's about 38 plus 9 is 47. 47 in base for a 500k hooker is fine. But then obviously you're adding the attacking stats in, and it got all the way up to 88. So definitely someone I think worth of consideration. From memory, he played the full 80 minutes. I think he's an 80-minute hooker. 58 minutes, sorry. I've got that completely wrong. Played 58 minutes. So, 47 points in 47 points of base stats in 58 minutes is pretty good. So, yeah, Egan, I think, is definitely going to be one of the more popular options as a buy this week. I think, to be honest, with Nia Corey, I was kind of hoping he would just do poorly. It would just make my decision to move to him very easy. But now that I think he's done well, and I think his base stats are good, I think I have to keep Nia Corey for now. Is Ford going to be out? Yeah, so with Ford, he got a failed HIA, so I think he just has to go through the concussion protocols. But yeah, bit hard to see now because we didn't really get a good idea of the Warriors forward rotation still this week. Sorry, little bug on my desk. I just had to get rid of that. Brought in Jackson forward last week. Yeah, that's anyone who went forward this week is real unlucky because I would have played him as well in my 17. So you've really gotten unlucky with that forward HIA. Same with Ponga this week. There was Drinkwater. There was just a few players who just absolutely cooked it this week. Ponga trade, lost my head-to-head because of him. Unfortunate Stefanos. But yeah, no, Ponga is probably going to be an easy sell, I think. Curious actually just on Franklin Pele, what his minutes were like. Just came to mind. 23 minutes. Okay, it's better than the 8 minutes that he played last week. But yeah, I think he's just not going to be someone who's going to really make any good money. He's going to be just stuck there. So I'd be happy to move on from him and upgrade him to a Tohu if I could do that. Egan Butcher to Tohu, thoughts? Squiz Fizz, I like that a lot. very, very, very much like that. Tohu looks like he's just going to be rock solid. Ian says, thoughts on these trades: Cheese or Tanner Boyd to Wade Egan, Mulatalo to Carraz, and Latrell to Kennedy or Walsh. Round 4 trades: Cleary to Cherry Evans and To'o to Garrick. I mean, I automatically don't like the Latrell downgrade. Like, Latrell's done nothing, in my opinion, that warrants a sell. So for me, I already don't like the Latrell out part. If you can do those other moves without having to fund it with Latrell out, then fine. I think they're okay. But no, I don't like trading Latrell. Like, to me, that just feels like a wasted trade, especially if it's down to like Kennedy or Walsh. Like, Latrell is an absolute gun. I know he's probably going to go down in price as well, but nah, not for me. Not for me to sell. Aman, do you have a list of hookers playing the first bye? So the first bye, let's have a look here. So round 13. So I guess it'll be easier just to go team by team. So Broncos are playing. So what's that? Billy Walters, Corey Pakes, Canberra, Tom Starling, Dolphins, Marshall King, Toby. Marshall King looks real good again this week. So he's probably someone I need to add to the hooker options list, don't I? Because he looked really good again this week. Having a quick look at his scores. Sorry, Toby, I'll jump back to the draw just in a second. Only 33. Oh, because I was listening to this game on the radio and it sounded like Marshall King was doing awesome, but only 33 points. I'm surprised by that. 40. Okay, he got sin binned. Oh, he got a sin bin. That doesn't help things, obviously, because without that, he's looking at 41, which is still not ideal. Especially he's quite expensive at 610k. Yeah, maybe Wade Egan just for the price. Okay, sorry, back to your question. So yeah, Dolphins, maybe Marshall King, Manly, Croker, Knights, maybe Jaden Brayley, Cowboys, Reece Robson, Warriors, Wade Egan, so Wade Egan would cover it. Parramatta, so Josh Hodgson, St. George, so Jacob Little, and Souths, Damien Cook would probably not feature in round 13 because of the bye, because of State of Origin. So even then, you're probably only getting someone who's short term. So the hooker options are not great for round 13 if you are looking to cover that round 13 bye week. It's probably going to be Marshall King or Wade Egan or Jaden Brayley. But most of the big teams like your Melbourne's, no Harry Grant, Bulldogs, no Reid Marnie. Who else is there? Tigers, no Api Coruscant, for example. Roosters, no Cheese. So yeah, it's going to be a tough week, I think, for hookers in round 13. All right, so I think we're on about 54 minutes. We'll go for another kind of 5 minutes. I think we'll just do some questions. But guys, if you have enjoyed the stream, please do give it a thumbs up as well. Really appreciate you all being here with me on this Sunday evening, and the likes do help the algorithm. Oh yeah, and quick shout out as well to the guy who ran into me on Saturday morning. First time that I'd been recognized in public. So I appreciate that. It was if you ever see me in public, don't be afraid to say hello. I'm more than happy to have a chat. Sinbin, yeah, okay. A lot of people are saying, yeah, Jerry Marshall King, Sinbin. Reid Marnie looks good. Yeah, Marnie has looked good. So he did this to us last year as well, when a lot of us, including myself, started with him, and then he just stunk it up. But he has looked good. So he's definitely an option as well. Someone mentioned Mark Nichols. Yeah, what did Nichols score? 58 in base stats, isn't it? Not bad. So maybe a little cheeky mid-range front row forward in Mark Nichols. If I upgrade Pele, that's a shout. Tom Gilbert, obviously, I poo-pooed basically in the preseasons, come out and scored a try, 80 points. Didn't include a line break though. I think it was off a kick. So 63 without that try is quite impressive. So pretty good. Yeah, Toby says, yeah, Marnie looks good, but no buy coverage. Honestly, it looks like that hooker slot for buy coverage looks quite poor, if I'm being honest. Not too many options. So maybe don't have to factor that into your decision too much. Then maybe you can just kind of run with who you just think is going to be the best option until round 13 and then deal with the issue then. Is Chance a sell? So yeah, he scored 17 points. Unfortunately got a failed HIA. Doesn't scream sell to me. Like if he's back playing next week, I think it's going to be okay because I think he's a pretty solid option. So it doesn't necessarily need to be sold. If he's out for this week, then yeah, I think you can probably look to move him to like maybe a Tabuai Fido at the same price to maybe make some money. Tarpany hasn't done much. Yeah, look, Tarpany's not come out kind of going out like the way that he did at the end of last season. But look, 64 points this week, all in base power, so pretty solid. Just didn't get any of the big attacking stats. I feel like his minutes, I want to say that his minutes weren't quite that high, because last week he played I think 48ish minutes, something like that, and this week he's played 47. Yeah, so if you think about it, it's just the minutes thing, I think, because 64 points and 47 is fantastic PPM, and that's probably about in line with what he was doing at the back end of last season. It's just that he's not getting as many minutes as what he was at the back end of last season. So I think I'm just having a quick look at Tarpany's minutes kind of basically after round 13 last year. He was playing 58, 55, 67, 57, 59, 56, 56. Like he was playing mid 50s, which is what, and he basically maintained the same PPM. So just those 7, 8 extra minutes essentially was getting him another 9, 10 points. So that 64 is probably about right with his PPM. It's just that he's just not getting to those mid 50 minutes. So I think if you own Tarpany, for example, probably not one that you'd sell, just you hold for now, I think. Haas seems to be the best front row forward. Yeah, look, Haas is someone I've kind of not really thought about, to be honest. I think I've just been kind of more solely focused on Tohu. I think that's also just one price, two that is dual, and I think Tohu's just going to be a good long-term option, like no origin. Whereas Haas with Origin is probably going to be a trade in. Maybe someone will have to trade out again. So I feel like if I'm just going to make the effort to spend up to that front row forward spot, maybe I just lock in Tohu. He's going to get me 60, 65, same as Haas, but just more solid long term. So that's maybe one reason I'm thinking of going with Tohu. And do the Warriors play round 13? They do. So the Warriors play round 13. So Tohu can cover the first bye. So a couple of small factors, but that might be why I look to Tohu versus Payne Haas. Schuster, yeah. So someone's just quickly mentioned Schuster. Like I'm just going to I'll look at Schuster, I think, in round 5, but we'll see how he goes. Because if he doesn't kill it, then we don't need to jump on him straight away. And second row forward, as Jake says, is stacked for value picks. That's for sure. Second row forward is looking, apart from, if you've gotten like an Egan Butcher, I think he feels okay to sell because you've got so many avenues that you can go to. Katoa for me would be the one. I think he looks awesome. Lots of attacking stats this week. I think he had like 3 line breaks from memory. Yeah, he had 3 line breaks, but lots of tackle breaks, a few offloads in there too. Pure base of 15 plus 19. So what's that? 34 points? Yeah, 34 points in base, which isn't ideal. So it's a lot down on what he had last week, but a lot of the attacking upside. And he just had a kind of those games that we know that Katoa can have. I'm pretty sure his minutes were good. I think he played 80 minutes from memory. So I think seems as though he's going to be in that 80-minute role. No Tarek Sims, so we don't have clarity about that. But I think with Nas being out for 6 to 8 weeks, it feels like they'll use Sims as a middle. Because they've got Liero and they've got Katoa locking down those 80-minute edge rolls. I think the middles is where really the Storm need to profit. So maybe Josh King could be back on radar. Played 63 minutes this week for 48. So I know it was a very popular buy last week. Probably not going to be as much this week. But yeah, now with the Nas injury, could be someone that comes back into our thinking. All right, we'll do... actually, you know what? My voice is starting to... to be honest, my voice is starting to hurt a little bit. So I think we'll wrap it up there. We've just ticked over the hour mark as well. So I think we'll end it there. Thanks everyone for joining. Do please give the stream a like on the way out if you did enjoy it. Do please consider subscribing as well if you haven't subscribed. There'll be obviously a very important discussion around trades this week because it's the big trade week. So any questions, leave them in the comments below. Tag me on Twitter. I'll put a post out tomorrow on my Twitter and also on YouTube just for asking for your questions. Where possible, maybe it's good to make those trade questions less specific trades and more like general hot topics like, Cleary, do we sell, all those kind of things. And that way it's a bit easier to kind of cover more generally, I guess, people's questions as opposed to very specific team-based questions. But anyway, No more on that one. Catch you all later in the week. See ya, and have a good Sunday night. Catch you in the next one.